This is Sean Dowdell, the drummer for the band Grey Daze, and you are listening and watching Heavy Consequence on Consequence of Sound.
Hey everyone, it's Spencer from Heavy Consequence at Consequence of Sound. I'm here with Sean Dowdell of the band Grey Daze. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much, Spencer, for having me.
Yeah, well, we have a lot to talk about. New album coming out, and before we get into the music, obviously Grey Daze is a band that Chester Bennington was in before Linkin Park, and I wanted to go back to the origins of the band, and how you met Chester and what he was like as a young teenager.
So I met Chester in 1992. He was a sophomore in high school. I was a freshman in college. He was 15. I was 17. Chester was told that we were interviewing for a singer for our band we were trying to put together. So he came down and auditioned. And when he walked through the door, he was all of 90 pounds, super tight curly hair, had these really weird wire rimmed glasses. And in my 17-year-old rock star persona, I had this image of what I thought our lead singer should look like. And, I was casting judgment the moment he walked through the door. I was like, that's not what we're looking for. And then he sang and he shut my arrogant ass right up. He was amazing. He had that raw energy, that raw vocal talent from the moment go. And he was great right out of the gate. And we said, when can you start? He said, I need to go talk to my dad. He asked me if I'd go home with him and have a conversation with his father so we could convince him to let him come and sing for the band. And I did. I went to his house and we sat down with his dad in the living room, and he basically had to make every promise under the sun about keeping his grades up and all the things he would promise to do for his dad if he let him play with the band. And his dad said, yeah. And then we started Grey Daze in 1993, and we played together till mid-1998. And he was just a great person. He always had good energy. He was always very kind, very loving. It wasn't something that he learned to become compassionate later on. He was always that way. He was always a generous guy. He was always kind. He was always loving. Not a mean bone in his body.
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of get that from him, even just from his public persona as well. And you guys had a lot of local success, and the band kind of was taking off a little bit, opening for national acts, and then as you mentioned, the band broke up in '98. But before that, what were your ambitions for Grey Daze?
We were going to take over the world with the band. I mean, every young band that was trying to take their career seriously in the music world, that's what we were doing. We had actually signed 3 different record deals. We had recorded 3 full-length albums. We only put 2 of them out. We were playing in front of 1,500 to 1,800 people on a regular basis. We were outdrawing a lot of the nationals that we were playing with. We would play with bands like, Seven Mary 3. We play with Bush. We play with No Doubt. We play with all the up and comers on their way up. And we would hold our own. A lot of times they would come up to us after we got off stage before they would go on and just be like, who are you guys? Like, cause we held our own. We were good. And we had that local fan. It wasn't like, the people that were there to see those nationals didn't know who we were. Like, we had a pretty stout local presence.
Cool. And, when Chester joined Linkin Park and took off right out of the gate with Hybrid Theory and all of a sudden was in this mega selling band, for you, was there a sense of pride or was there kind of a sense of resentment in the beginning, seeing his massive success?
I'm so glad you asked the first part of that question. A lot of people usually ask just the second part. Were you mad when he made it? And no, I was never mad. I always took pride in the fact, and even at the time when Hybrid Theory came out, Chester and I weren't talking because we had a pretty bad breakup when the band broke up. But I never let that cloud who I knew Chester was and how proud I was when he started to take off, because I felt, I don't want to say responsible for that because that's definitely not what I'm trying to say, but I definitely felt pride, he got to this point through what we were doing, and we were part of this story. Even early on, I felt like that. I was very proud of him, and I still am.
Now I want to get into the genesis of this new album, Amends. As I understand it, Chester reached out to you in 2017 before his passing and was interested in re-recording some of the material and holding an anniversary concert. Can you take me back to how it started in that process.
So it was actually October-ish of 2016. We used to do these big parties for our business, Club Tattoo. We call them Club Tattoo anniversary parties. And we would draw anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 people. We'd have a big venue. Chester and I would get some rock star friends, and we'd get up on stage and we'd play a show in front of all these people. And we just had a good time. We hadn't done one in a few years. Chester chose to become sober, and those environments were probably not conducive for his sobriety. So we just kind of weaned away from it. They were very expensive. They were a ton of work for my wife and I to put on. So we just kind of stopped for a few years. But when he called, he said, "Hey, we haven't done a Club Tattoo party in quite a while. I think it's time we do one. And I think it'd be really cool if we put Grey Daze back together for the show." And I was naturally intrigued. We had played with talking about putting Grey Daze together 2 or 3 times over the past decade or so. So the timing just felt right. So we talked through what that would look like and his obligations with Linkin Park, and we didn't want to step on those toes and make sure that it was a healthy environment to do it. So we made a big announcement, I want to say in January, online, where Chester and I went and we created a video together where we were putting the band back together, and we announced a reunion show that was going to be the following September. After he got off the road and his obligations with Linkin Park. And then as that started to develop, we started getting offers from all over the world to start playing as Grey Daze, which was kind of funny. And he and I would laugh on the phone. He says, it'd be cool if we have all this material that we released it, but we never released it, because when Linkin Park got to their stardom, Warner Brothers really stepped on the necks of Grey Daze. They pulled all of this stuff off the internet, off of the shelves. You couldn't find our stuff anywhere. And at the time I was upset about it. And now looking back, it was somewhat of a godsend, because now people get to hear this music for the first time in many cases. And he said, we have all these songs. Why don't we just re-record them and put them out? We could literally have 3 albums worth of material. I could do it intermittently when I'm on the road through my other commitments. We don't have to take 5 months to lock ourselves in a studio. We literally have the stuff almost done. Let's redo it. So in January, February of 2017, we got the tapes, we unloaded them, started working with a producer, started stripping down everything. We started talking about a game plan of how we're going to form a strategy to timeline this out so that come September, when we did our concert, we were either done or relatively close to being done to having the album finished. Well, as time went on, as you know, in July, Chester passed away. He was tragically taken from us. So all systems were stopped at that point, and I just didn't do anything with it for about 6-8 months after he passed. My main concern when he passed was, oh my God, I just lost one of my best friends. My friend's wife is now a widow. His children now don't have a father. So my wife and I really stepped up and went out to LA and tried to help Talinda as much as we could get through that. At the time, and that was a difficult moment for all of us. But about 8 months after Chester passed, I told my wife that I think I just want to finish this record. And, we're very successful entrepreneurs. So we were just going to self-fund it and put it out on our own. And as we started to work through the process, we talked with a mutual friend named Renee, who he had some interesting ideas on how to finish the album. He said, let's go out to NRG in LA. Let's work with Jay Baumgartner, have him mix it. Let's do this at the top level so that it maintains the standard of what Chester and his following or his fans are used to hearing. And that was interesting to me. So, we're always going to do our best, but at the same time, I didn't really know how deep we needed to go to get it done. So once we started working in LA, we hired several different producers, and we kind of started over. And what we said we're going to do, we're not just going to retrack these songs. We're going to strip everything down to the vocal. And then we're going to work on the arrangement of the vocal. And then we're going to rewrite every single song around his vocal. And we're going to do it in a modern format that would make the songs relevant in today's market to Chester's fans, so that they could understand the point of view of where he was coming from, or at least the intent of the songs. And it was important throughout the process that we maintain the integrity of not only the band, but Chester, and making sure that the songs still stayed true to the initial intent.
When the news of Chester came in summer 2017, it was like, for us in the rock community, it was just shock and just a gut punch. And I wanted to kind of end on a more positive note. And you knowing him so well, what do you think, what do you want, and what do you think his lasting legacy in this world will be?
Oh, that's an easy one. Love. Chester was all about love. Chester, his musical legacy, it was a gift that not many singers had. And I like to describe it in a way that maybe it might be easy to digest this way. Chester had the ability to, through the way he sang, the listener would be able to, so the listener would have some type of emotional pain or be distraught in some way, and they may not be able to describe what that pain is, that emotional pain they're going through, but they could listen to Chester and they could go, that's what I'm feeling right there. I can't describe it, but he's describing it for me. And the best way that I can describe this is he had that gift to the listener. The listener was able to be expressive through Chester. And I don't think a lot of singers are able to do that. It's a very, very rare gift. And he had that gift. So that, I think, is his musical legacy. And his human legacy, he was a very loving human being. He was a great dad. He was a great husband. And he was an incredible friend. And I miss him every day, and I hope he's proud of what we did. I think he is.